good evening or good morning, depending on, I guess, the time that you're watching this. So this would be the second video. So doing pretty good at not making it a one and done. The other one should be up by now. I did not, unfortunately, get it up that day, but again, uh, doing bad things, so forgot. But it's my normal free time, so I remembered, put it up. It's You can hear it if you turn up the volume, but I have to kind of speak low due to the fact that I have a child in the not next room, but close enough that if I were to be talking at a normal voice, they could hear me quite easily, and they sleep fairly light. So I apologize if you have to turn your volume up more than you normally would. That said, I would like to do two things with this one. First, I just want to talk about why it's important to have, I'm going to call them footstools. Footstools, I think that's appropriate. Like footstool religious moments, at least in my eyes, my context. And I want to read a verse, not just because of what I want to dedicate this channel to, but also for Charlie Kirk, for the man who was assassinated yesterday, or at this point, 2 days ago. It's I think this speaks kind of true, if not entirely true, as to what we were called to do and what he did. It is unfortunate that he died. It is a great sorrow and a great loss to his family. He was a good man from everything I've seen thus far. He was a great father, an amazing husband, I'm certain. And so I think this line says it all. And so I'm going to read it for you all. It is John 15, starting at verse 18. I think they're called verses. So, if the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. So that's John 15, 18, or 15, verse 18 to 19. And that's about, it's pretty evident in the speech there, but this is what we're called to do as Christians. It is not that we want to be hated, it's just that it's gonna happen. Give me 1 second, I'll close this book. Yeah, it's not our goal to be hated. We're not going out there with pitchforks and burning people's stuff down and knocking things over and causing a general disturbance. But ideally, we're out there, or maybe if you're just at work and you're just speaking the truth. I've been trying to incorporate that for myself, just talking about the Bible a little bit here and there, a little bit here and there, because you need to build up that, you need to build it up. The Bible that I have is a study Bible, and it talks to you about the importance of street preaching, but it also tells you not to just come at someone and just start telling them they're going to hell and the world is ending. You don't want to just hit them with everything. You got to build it up, build that rapport. And so I do it at work. Just here and there, I'll mention it. I've been reading the Bible more, I've been studying the Bible more, and how it's affected my life and how I've been choosing to take different routes in life because I've been reading the Bible. And doing that, people aren't going to like it. It's just the way it is. You're going to tell someone the truth, the Bible, and they're going to reject it. And you're right. Obviously you have to be careful about the right in this situation. Reading it directly from the Bible, that is correct. When you start to paraphrase and take things a little more into your own context, it gets a little fuzzy there. So that's why I read that line directly from the Bible. That was word for word. I believe I have the New King James Version, so if you're looking for which Bible that's from, that's it. And that's the direct words. The world will hate you because you're not of the world. And if you want to be of the world, then the world will love you. And that's what a lot of people are doing. I've seen it quite a bit yesterday. It is, as a nation, I am from America. as a nation, it is sad seeing how many people are celebrating a man's death. Whether you believe that he was right, whether you loved him, whether you hated him, whether you loathed him, whether you thought he had the best points or the worst points, he's a human. And as we are all put on this planet by God, a human dying should be sad. And this is this is a bigger deal than most, not because he was the second coming or something, but because the way and what happened. So he was not just, you know, preaching on his beliefs, that being the Bible and his conservative values, but he was out there talking to the youth. He was trying to get them in. He was trying to get them to understand and come to a common ground of just what makes the most sense. And he was shot for that. He was shot for his beliefs. He was assassinated on his beliefs, and that's what hurts. Obviously, someone dying, anyone dying. The recent floods that happened in Texas, obviously sad. I don't need to tell you why that's sad. When these people go into Christian schools and start gunning down kids, this is horrible. No one wants this. These are all sad moments. But in each of those events, there's a bit of a different pull. When the storms in Texas happened, that is sad, and it is obviously it kind of comes out of nowhere. It's nature though. You can't stop nature from doing what it does. We're not God. We cannot just stop it from being a flash flood. Obviously there were warnings, but you can only act so fast. Flash floods come in a flash, hence the name. And it was sad seeing some of those pictures. And then there were people, now that I think about it, there were people who would get online and they would start making jokes about these kids. These are kids. I forget the exact phrase in the Bible, but God says something about we need to be like children, bless the children. I forget the exact terminology, and I'll try and find it for next time. I try not to thumb through the Bible because you can hear it on this mic. But God tells us that we need to embrace kids, like children. They're good. They are goodness. They don't know what evil is. 99% of children do not know what evil is, and people are online bashing these kids for dying, acting like this is a good thing. And then the shooter that went to the Christian school, I didn't see much online for that one. I'm not gonna act like I did. But that was someone who went to a school with their beliefs and enforced them onto those kids and the staff members. That wasn't someone being assassinated per se. It was more of a terror attack, which is in its own right sad, right? Just yesterday was 9/11 at this point of the video, a terror attack. I'm not going to get into conspiracies, but we're just going to go off what we know. Terror attack. Very sad. People lost their lives. Firefighters, businessmen, policemen, all types of Americans came together to save as many people as they could. And a lot of them died due to the debris and stuff that came from the building. Old building, asbestos, all that stuff. It was really bad. And this is just another one of those, but amplified, because now we have someone who was at his heart, he was a very kind man. He was never aggressive and never angry when he talked to people. He was very respectful, and he was shot dead. And he was assassinated, and that's why this is really sad. And so that's why I thought it was important for that verse. But now, kind of like to move just slightly adjacent to this, why it's important, because in these trying times, is trying for us. We are on the planet currently. Charlie, blessed be his soul, he's in heaven. He's with the big man, and nothing can be better than that. God, Jesus, he's got it all up there. And so we want to pray, not for Charlie at this point, because we know where he went. He, in my eyes, I think he's good. I can't judge someone's soul. I don't have that power. I don't know his relationship with God, but I'm under the strong belief that he's up there. But his children and his wife right now need those prayers. They need those blessings. Those children watch their father get assassinated. If what I heard is true, the oldest one was watching her dad at the time of. So she saw it. This child saw that, and that is extremely sad. And there are people laughing about this, and so I think it's super important that we give them our prayer. And I hope and I pray that they continue upon the path of God and they don't take this as a turn away, because I can understand if they chose to. I forget, I really wish I had planned these out a little better, but there's a line in the Bible, whether it's my study portion, it's like a little study blurbs, or the Bible itself, that kind of says, God understands that you're going to get angry with him. And we're human, we're not perfect, and it makes sense. Just like a father understands when their daughter is going to be upset that you tell them they can't go out with their friends, or a son's going to be upset when you tell him he can't play with his friends or play his game or whatever. You understand that. You don't take it personally. And so I think, and I hope that they feel strongly about this, and they take that and they use that to push them even further into Christianity, even further to God. So I want to use that as kind of a footstool, a point of reference to what I was talking about earlier, which is when I gave my kind of testimony earlier in the previous video, I talked about all these little moments, and I think that's important for us. We are, if not, made up of all our little moments. You don't have many big moments. And you win a race, that's a big moment. Sure, I ran track. Running a race is a big moment. But all the little moments, all those little points of training, when you pushed yourself a little harder, when you ran just a little faster, those are what matter. Those are the big things that got you to that win. And I think that works the same for Christianity. I had a lot of little moments with Christianity and Christ growing up. And I'm not going to give you my whole story, my whole sob story, as I say. It's not entirely crucial to what I'm trying to get at. But I had many down moments. I grew up in kind of a broken home. Not that my dad did bad, but I grew up raised by my dad. My mom, I love her. She was around, but she wasn't the one with me. It was my stepmother, or at least what I call her. And as a kid, you have emotions. I feel different types of ways. You want things which you think are good for you, but they're not. And I was one of those kids. And I had all these little moments where I would pray to God, or I would, talk to God, or I'd have someone tell me about God. And my little kid, as a little kid, you're not really thinking about it. So you typically, I've seen a lot of kids that kind of push away from it. I didn't push away per se, but I didn't go to it. I kind of sat there. And I thank God that he allowed me to sit there in the middle, because now with all those little moments whether it was back when my grandparents made me go, and then they had church events, and I love church events because that meant free food, and I was a little fatty. So free food, hanging out with the kids at the church, doing the plays at the church, listening to the church music, going from that to my wife, her family very deep embedded in church, talking to her family about church stuff. I would sit down, and I don't take, there's not a pride in this, but I would sit down because I was still curious about the Bible. I just never really went and sat down and read the whole thing, at least in its entirety, as an adult. I remember reading it as a kid, but I don't remember much of it. And so I would talk to her father, my wife's father, and I'd ask him all types of questions, up to the point where he was like, you got too many questions. And I think that's God pushing me. He was pushing me forward into his arms. And I'm happy that this happened, because I mentioned it. I mentioned it in the last video. It's called existential crisis. I didn't remember the word, but I would have those. It's like you're kind of having a existence crisis, right? You are having a I don't know the right words to describe this, but essentially your existence is putting you into a state of panic. Like, what am I? What matters? Everything doesn't matter. I'm gonna die. What happens when you die? Dark void, all this stuff. And I would have those a lot. And through Christ, through God, I get to experience what it feels like to be loved, not just by my wife or my family, but by someone who made me. Like, I would not be here if it had not been for the beginning, right? those little moments push you further and further to that understanding. And so, whether or not you see someone, whether it's at work, friend, family, you just talk to them a little bit about the Bible, about church, maybe about God in general, and you just give them a taste of it, right? They'll never know if they don't like it. They'll never know if they want to fully be embraced by it if they don't get even a taste of it. And the more taste, the better, because just like a dish, right? A little tiny tip, a little sip of the soup is not going to really give you an idea what the soup tastes like, right? And so you want to give them as much as you can, so that when it comes down to it, and they have to make that decision, ideally they choose the right decision, because that's what's good for their eternal soul, right? Making the most money, buying the best cars, making right? And if you're a guy, getting all the girls. If you're a girl, getting the rich dude. Um, all that stuff is worldly. It's worldly. When you die, none of that dies with you. Well, you know what I mean. None of that comes with you. All that money, gone. All that fame and fortune and wealth, gone. Because you're dead. None of it matters. You want to be right with God when you die, because when you die, He's the one who's going to go over the tally with you. Jesus Christ is going to go over the tally with you. And you want to be right with Him, because if you're not, I mean, hell does not sound pleasant. And so that's why I think it's important that you give people, when you talk to them, these little moments. And I'm hoping that whoever stumbles across this video, whether you're Christian or not, this can be that for you. This can be those little moments just for you, where you come and you listen and you're like, yeah, I think maybe I will pick up the Bible and just give it a read, or maybe I will listen to some preachings, or maybe I'll go back to church. I know my grandmother's been asking me, or my mother's been asking me, my dad. Just these little moments, they can make a big difference. And obviously, like I said, all these little moments lead to something grand. I am a churchgoer now at this point, but I haven't felt the urge to go out and like street preach. And like I said, it's hot. Where I live, it's very hot. I live in basically the desert, and so and that's one of many states, but basically the desert. So it's hot, and it's not always a good temperature to be going out there. And it's kind of hard to do that street preach, help take care of the kids. It's just a bundle, and I really wanted to do something, and this is my something. And this only happened because, in essence, I was radicalized, but not radicalized to go out and hurt someone, but radicalized to go out there and say something. No longer just sit there silently and let my thoughts fester in my head and talk to my wife about it. Which, talking to your wife's not bad, but I put it out there. And ideally with this, my daughters as well will hear this and they'll see, and they'll too push themselves to do more, whether it's more for the community that they're a part of, more for the church that they are part, like whatever it is, just doing more to get more people to Christ. Because if you don't think that it's important, if you think you have time, if you don't believe that getting right with God is important, I'll say it like this. Albeit, Charlie Kirk is a very unique individual. He's a regular man, but he is a man who had more status, more fame than most. Successful company, all this stuff. But he wasn't like running for a political position, and he wasn't pushing to change laws. And so obviously he had his own opinions, but he wasn't actively in there making laws and changing the judicial system. So, and that man probably thought that day, which at this point is 2 days ago on the 10th, that he was going to go home with his kids, his wife. He's going to have a good day. That all ended at a moment's notice. And that doesn't mean you're going to be shot dead somewhere. It means that you never know when your end is nigh. You may be driving and take your eyes off the road for a second, and boom, car crash. You may be in a plane and it goes down, in a boat. You might be chilling out at home and just have a heart attack. It's important that we all take time to be right with Jesus, because if you are not, and the time comes, there won't be any time. So I hope that this message gets across. Um, that's kind of what I wanted to touch on for this video. Went a little longer than, I don't really have a plan for the length, but maybe I'll try and stick it to 20, 25, a little less. But ideally next video I can go into a little more verses that I think have like a strong, whether it's effect on me or just like ones we should be looking into. These ones, this video was back to back, so maybe there might be some time between this one and the next one. But ideally, I keep this up. They say to get a hobby or get a habit, you need to do it multiple times. So ideally, I make this a habit because I do want this to be a habit. I want my kids to have this. They'll come back to and look at and say, my dad, he was always, well, at least as far as they know, always with God, and he did his best in the position that he was in. Because at the end of the day, again, you never know when it's gonna happen. And so I want them to have something. Because if I am to die, even if I was to die making this video, I want them to have something that they can listen to and know that I was trying to push them in the right direction. So, to all those who stumble upon me, thank you for watching. To my children, well, honestly to everybody, but especially my children, I love you all. You guys I really want you guys to know that the world is fleeting, and I'm not telling you to go out there and get shot per se, but as the verse said, you want to be of God, and if that is to be the case, the world will hate you. So you just have to be prepared for that. But know that nothing's better than being with God, because when you die, you go with Him. If you're of the world, you go with the world, and that's not what you want to be. So, thank you all for listening. Love you all. God bless. Have a wonderful night or morning.